In a small town, nestled deep within the woods, there stood a courthouse with a dark history. Many whispered tales of eerie occurrences within its walls, but none compared to the events that unfolded one fateful night during a late trial. It was a particularly stormy evening, with thunder rumbling ominously overhead and lightning illuminating the empty streets. Inside the courthouse, the trial of a notorious serial killer was reaching its climax. As the prosecution presented its final piece of evidence, a sudden power outage plunged the courtroom into darkness. Panic gripped the spectators as they groped in the dark, their hearts racing with fear. Amidst the chaos, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the courtroom, followed by the sound of frantic footsteps. When the emergency lights flickered to life moments later, the jurors and spectators were horrified to discover the judge's lifeless body sprawled across the bench, his throat gruesomely slit. Investigators scoured the courthouse for clues, but each step only seemed to lead them deeper into a labyrinth of mystery and terror. Strange symbols etched onto the walls, chilling whispers echoing in the corridors, and reports of apparitions haunting the witness stand all added to the atmosphere of dread that pervaded the building. Despite their efforts, the truth behind the judge's murder remained elusive. Some whispered that the courthouse was cursed, its walls tainted by the lingering presence of past injustices. Others believed it was the vengeful spirit of the serial killer, seeking retribution from beyond the grave. To this day, the courthouse stands as a grim reminder of the horrors that unfolded within its walls. Visitors speak of strange sensations and unexplained phenomena, cautioning others to tread carefully, lest they become entangled in the courthouse's dark legacy. And as the wind howls through the trees outside, the echoes of that fateful night still linger, whispering of unspeakable secrets waiting to be uncovered. As the investigation continued, tensions within the town reached a fever pitch. Rumors swirled like the mists that enveloped the courthouse at dawn. Some townsfolk swore they saw shadowy figures lurking in the windows at night, while others claimed to have heard disembodied voices echoing through the empty halls. Desperate for answers, the local authorities called upon experts in the occult and paranormal to aid in their investigation. But even they found themselves confounded by the inexplicable events unfolding within the courthouse's cursed confines. In a last-ditch effort to unravel the mystery, a brave team of investigators decided to conduct a daring overnight vigil inside the courthouse. Armed with cameras, recording devices, and an arsenal of protective charms, they ventured into the heart of darkness, determined to confront whatever malevolent force lurked within. As the night wore on, they experienced phenomena beyond their wildest nightmares. Doors slammed shut of their own accord, spectral figures appeared and vanished in the blink of an eye, and cold spots seemed to follow them wherever they went. In a climactic moment of terror, the investigators found themselves trapped in the courtroom, surrounded by a swirling vortex of darkness. Faces twisted with agony materialized within the shadows, their anguished cries piercing the silence like daggers. Summoning every ounce of courage they possessed, the investigators fought back against the encroaching darkness, brandishing their protective talismans like shields against an onslaught of malevolent energy. With a final burst of defiance, they managed to break free from the courthouse's sinister grasp, fleeing into the night as dawn's first light crept over the horizon. Though the ordeal left them shaken to the core, the investigators emerged from the courthouse with newfound resolve. They may never fully understand the horrors that lurk within its walls, but they vow to continue their quest for truth, determined to uncover the secrets that lie hidden in the heart of darkness. And as long as the courthouse stands as a beacon of terror in the night, they will be there, ready to confront whatever nightmares may come. Deep in the heart of a sprawling metropolis, there stood a grand and imposing courthouse, its towering spires reaching towards the heavens like accusing fingers. For generations, it had been the stage for countless trials, each one leaving behind whispers of scandal and intrigue. but none could compare to the darkness that lay hidden within its hallowed halls. The tale begins on a stormy night, much like any other, with rain lashing against the courthouse's ancient stone walls and thunder rattling its windows. Inside, a high-profile trial was underway, captivating the attention of the entire city. The defendant, a wealthy and influential businessman, stood accused of heinous crimes that had shocked the community to its core. As the trial entered its final day, tension hung in the air like a suffocating fog. Witnesses were called to the stand, one by one, their testimonies painting a grim picture of corruption and depravity. But just as the prosecution prepared to deliver its closing argument, a series of strange and inexplicable events began to unfold. First, the lights flickered ominously, casting eerie shadows across the courtroom. Then, a bone-chilling cold descended upon the chamber, causing jurors to shiver in their seats. Murmurs of unease rippled through the crowd as they exchanged nervous glances, sensing that something was terribly wrong. Suddenly, with a deafening roar, the ground beneath the courthouse began to shake violently, sending cracks spiderwebbing across the floor. Panic erupted as people scrambled for safety, but their efforts were in vain as the courthouse seemed to come alive with a malevolent energy of its own. In the midst of the chaos, the defendant seized the opportunity to make his escape, disappearing into the labyrinthine corridors of the courthouse, as if swallowed by the very shadows themselves. And as the dust settled and the tremors subsided, those left behind were left to grapple with the horrifying realization that they were not alone. In the days that followed, tales of strange happenings within the courthouse spread like wildfire throughout the city. Security cameras captured footage of ghostly apparitions drifting through the corridors at night, their spectral forms haunting the empty halls with their mournful wails. Meanwhile, those unfortunate enough to find themselves alone in the courthouse after dark spoke of feeling an oppressive presence bearing down upon them, as if the very walls themselves were alive with malevolence. Despite numerous attempts to exorcise the courthouse of its sinister influence, the darkness that lurked within its walls seemed only to grow stronger with each passing day. And as the years went by, the courthouse became a place of dread and superstition, its once hallowed halls now shunned by all but the bravest souls. To this day, the courthouse stands as a grim reminder of the horrors that lie hidden beneath the surface of even the most civilized society. And though its secrets may never be fully uncovered, one thing remains certain: those who dare to enter its shadowy confines do so at their own peril, for the darkness that dwells within is ancient, insatiable, and utterly without mercy. In the wake of the courthouse's descent into darkness, whispers spread throughout the city, weaving a tapestry of fear and speculation. Some claimed that the building was cursed, its foundations laid upon ancient burial grounds, or tainted by the blood of long-forgotten tragedies. Others whispered of a pact made with dark forces in exchange for power and influence, a deal that had come due in the most terrifying of ways. Despite the growing chorus of warnings, there were those who remained undeterred, drawn to the courthouse like moths to a flame. Among them was a group of intrepid urban explorers, eager to uncover the truth behind the rumors that had captured the city's imagination. Armed with cameras, flashlights, and a sense of reckless abandon, they ventured into the heart of darkness, their footsteps echoing through the empty corridors like a dirge. As they delved deeper into the courthouse's labyrinthine depths, they encountered evidence of its troubled past. At every turn, forgotten chambers filled with cobwebs and dust, decrepit cells stained with the memories of those who had languished within their confines, and secret passages hidden behind crumbling walls, their purpose lost to the ravages of time. But it was what they discovered in the courthouse's deepest recesses that would haunt them forevermore. For there, in a chamber black as pitch, they stumbled upon an altar adorned with sinister symbols and strange, otherworldly artifacts. It was a place of unspeakable power, where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred and twisted like the branches of a gnarled tree. As they gazed upon the unholy sight before them, a sense of dread washed over the explorers, suffusing their very souls with a cold, paralyzing terror. They knew then that they had stumbled upon something far beyond their understanding, something that should have remained buried in the shadows of history. But before they could flee the accursed chamber, they were beset by a wave of malevolent energy, a force born of centuries-old darkness that sought to consume them body and soul. With nowhere left to run, they huddled together, their hearts pounding in their chests as they prepared to meet their grisly fate. But just as all hope seemed lost, a blinding light pierced the darkness, banishing the malevolent presence and filling the chamber with a warm, comforting glow. And as the explorers stumbled out of the courthouse's depths, they knew that they had been granted a second chance to escape the clutches of the darkness that had threatened to consume them and to warn others of the horrors that lay hidden within the courthouse's walls. From that day forth, the courthouse stood empty and abandoned, a silent sentinel looming over the city like a specter from a nightmare. And though its doors remained closed to the outside world, the echoes of its dark past lingered on, a reminder of the thin line that separates the world of the living from the realm of the dead. In the heart of a bustling city, the courthouse stood as a monument to justice, its imposing facade a testament to the rule of law. But beneath its polished exterior lay a darkness that few dared to acknowledge, a darkness that hungered for justice of its own. The tale begins on a crisp autumn morning, as the courthouse prepared to host one of its most anticipated trials in recent memory. The defendant, a charismatic politician accused of heinous crimes, had captured the public's imagination with his charm and wit. But as the trial unfolded, it became clear that there was more to the defendant than met the eye. As witnesses took the stand and evidence was presented, a sense of unease settled over the courtroom like a shroud. Strange occurrences, dismissed at first as mere coincidence, began to multiply with each passing day. Lights flickered inexplicably, casting eerie shadows across the chamber. Jurors reported feeling a chill in the air, as if unseen eyes were watching their every move. But it was during a particularly tense cross-examination that the true horror of the courthouse revealed itself. As the prosecutor grilled the defendant on his alleged misdeeds, a low guttural growl echoed through the chamber, sending shivers down the spines of all who heard it. At first, it was dismissed as a trick of the imagination, a product of the stress and tension that permeated the courtroom. But as the trial dragged on, the growls grew louder and more menacing, until they seemed to fill the very air with their malevolent presence. Witnesses spoke of seeing shadowy figures lurking in the corners of the room, their eyes gleaming with hunger and malice. Some claimed to have felt icy fingers brushing against their skin, as if reaching out from beyond the grave. As fear gripped the courthouse like a vice, rumors began to circulate of a curse that had befallen the building, a curse born of centuries-old grievances and forgotten sins. According to local law, the courthouse had been built atop the site of a long-forgotten graveyard, its foundations soaked with the blood of those who had met untimely ends at the hands of the law. But it was not until the dead themselves began to rise from their graves that the true horror of the curse was laid bare. In the dead of night, as the city slept, the courthouse became a battleground between the living and the dead, a realm where justice held no sway and the laws of the natural world were but a distant memory. With each passing day, the courthouse became increasingly untethered from reality, its walls pulsing with a dark energy that threatened to consume all who dared to enter. And as the trial reached its climactic conclusion, the courthouse itself seemed to rebel against the injustices that had been perpetrated within its hallowed halls. In the end, it was not the verdict of the jury that determined the defendant's fate, but the wrath of the courthouse itself. As the final gavel fell and the echoes of the trial faded into silence, the building itself seemed to sigh with relief, as if finally released from the grip of the darkness that had held it captive for so long. But for those who had borne witness to the horrors of the courthouse, there could be no escape from the nightmares that haunted their every waking moment. And as they passed by the courthouse on their daily commute, they could not help but wonder what other secrets lay hidden within its walls, waiting to be unearthed by those brave or foolish enough to seek them out. Months passed, but the shadow of the courthouse's curse lingered over the city like a specter refusing to be banished. Despite efforts to cleanse the building of its malevolent influence, each attempt seemed to only stoke the flames of the darkness that dwelled within. Whispers of the courthouse's haunted past spread far and wide, drawing curious thrill-seekers and paranormal investigators from across the country. Some sought to unravel the mysteries that lay hidden within its walls, while others came in search of proof to debunk the stories that had captured the public's imagination. Among those drawn to the courthouse's dark allure was a team of intrepid researchers determined to document the truth behind the rumors that had plagued the city for so long. Armed with an array of high-tech gadgets and a healthy dose of skepticism, they ventured into the heart of the courthouse, their cameras rolling as they prepared to confront whatever horrors lay in wait. As they explored the building's labyrinthine corridors and forgotten chambers, they encountered evidence of the curse's malevolent influence at every turn. Electronic devices malfunctioned inexplicably, their screens flickering with static and strange symbols. Temperature readings fluctuated wildly, plunging to bone-chilling lows one moment and soaring to sweltering highs the next. But it was the voices that haunted them most, the disembodied whispers that seemed to emanate from the very walls themselves, their words a chilling cacophony of rage and despair. And as the researchers delved deeper into the courthouse's dark past, they soon discovered that the curse was far more insidious than they could have ever imagined. According to local legend, the courthouse had once been the site of a witch trial during the colonial era, its halls echoing with the cries of innocents condemned to the flames. But the true horror lay not in the injustices of the past, but in the vengeful spirits that had been unleashed in their wake, a legion of tormented souls bound by a thirst for retribution. As the researchers pieced together the puzzle of the courthouse's curse, they found themselves drawn into a battle for their very souls. Shadows seemed to coil around them, twisting and writhing with a malevolent intelligence as they sought to snuff out the light of their humanity. But even in the face of unspeakable terror, the researchers refused to surrender to the darkness. With courage and determination, they stood their ground, wielding their knowledge like a shield against the forces arrayed against them. And in the end, it was their resilience that proved to be their salvation. As dawn broke over the city and the last echoes of the curse faded into the ether, the researchers emerged from the courthouse's depths, battered but unbowed, their minds forever scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. But though the courthouse's curse had been vanquished, its legacy lived on in the hearts and minds of those who had dared to confront it. And as the city moved on from the nightmare that had consumed it, the courthouse stood as a silent sentinel, its walls bearing witness to the darkest depths of the human soul.